Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome back in I Hear You podcast with Mo. Please share, like, subscribe, and comment. And please welcome my friend James. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me on.
Of course, I really wanted to have you earlier, but the schedule. So I'm glad you came and you made it.
Yeah.
And hope you like it, and hope everyone like it.
Oh, I'm already a fan.
Oh, thank you, man. I really appreciate you. You are one of 40, so we are
Okay,
going up
good.
I am glad you really like it and enjoying it. And James is doing philosophy. You are a teacher for philosophy, right?
Oh, no, I'm a student.
A student now for
student. Well, yeah, I have a work study where I'm a student professor or a student assistant.
Yes.
I've been called professor. It feels pretty good, but I'm not a professor.
Not a professor yet.
Not a professor yet. Maybe
Okay.
ever. I don't know.
Oh, okay. But a philosophy.
Yes.
That's not common, like...
Yeah, I think
nowadays.
at UNF, the number of philosophy majors is like, I don't know, 50 or something like that. I mean, it's small. It's small.
I feel it's not really common anymore and not really popular or people favorite anymore like before.
Right.
So that's why when you told me a philosophy, I said, not too many people like philosophy. Why philosophy?
Yeah, so a little backstory. I got a bachelor's in psychology, graduated in 2015 with that. I went into the workforce. I was like, I'm done with school. I just want a 9-to-5, all that. So at a certain point, which I'm sure we'll get into, I decided, you know what career I want to go into? I want to be a therapist.
Oh, okay.
Pandemic happened. I saved all my money. I had this whole grand plan where I was going to quit my job and go to grad school to pursue being a therapist. And I applied and I didn't get in anywhere. They're actually very competitive programs. So what I did was super rational, sarcastically. I did quit my job. Instead of going straight into grad school, I did a second bachelor's, which is a post-bac. So you don't have to do any, prereqs or anything like that. You just do your major requirements and you're done. So I could have done anything really. I just wanted to beef up my resume, but I felt like philosophy was the closest that I can do, or the closest degree that was applicable to therapy.
Oh, really? How you can see the common between the philosophy and therapy?
Yeah. So there have been, arguably psychology itself came out of philosophy. Now, the first psychologist, quote unquote, is William James, and he was a philosopher. Freud and Jung are kind of have one foot in psychology. I mean, they kind of helped develop it in the psychodynamic era, and they have one foot in philosophy. If you read Carl Jung, it reads like
I never see this like common between both of them.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm always connect philosophy to history.
Yeah.
Like Aristo and all of Socrates and all of these people. And yes, they had their own philosophy mind and philosophy ideas, which is I like sometimes to read about it, but I never connected with therapists or like mental health stuff.
Right. And there are certain subgenres of philosophy that are more apt to be applied to therapy and in psychology, like existentialism. There's actual subgroup of psychologists who consider themselves existential psychologists. So they assume that the world is inherently meaningless, and one creates their own meaning, and they can sit down with a patient and really dive into very deep philosophical ideas about identity, one's place in the world, what order they can make out of chaos. It's not for everyone, obviously. Some people, they don't need to think more. They need to more ex-terro stuff instead of in-terro stuff. But there's a long tradition there. It started like in the, existentialism started after World War II. And up until the present day, you can probably find an existential psychotherapist somewhere around here.
I like that because I never see it from this angle. I'm always looking at from the history angle, which is I like the philosophy and how to think about. I like the deep conversation in general. And when you keep going down from any conversation, you can go and be a philosophy.
Yes.
Like you can be talking about deep things and you'll think like, oh, I've been philosophy.
Right.
I'm a philosophy here and thinking like deeply about your identity or what we're doing here on earth, on this life, or what I'm doing in my life. So too much stuff you can connect it to philosophy, but I never connected to mental health.
Yes, absolutely. And what I've kind of found unexpectedly by doing this degree is philosophy is inherently a creative act. And it's not a lot of tests. It's all papers. And what I kind of found is, you'll be posed with a philosophical question, and you'll just have some sort of emotional reaction to it and kind of formulate that thought and then put it on the page. And most of it's really accepted. It's a very accepting environment, and it teaches you to be less closed-minded. And in therapy, I think that's extremely
very important.
Helpful, because I know I have this tendency. I do black and white thinking. Everything is all awful, or it's all great, or something like that, where philosophy in particular can teach you to look at things in a spectrum.
It's open your mind about all of the other stuff.
Yes, it's being about more open-minded. Like today, I was reading an article on inquiring into things, and that the goal of inquiry is to acquire knowledge, and that's a very yes, no, black, white kind of way of looking at things. But this article I was reading is interestingly looking at it as in terms of degrees. So you can inquire just to learn more, not to obtain ultimate truth or ultimate knowledge, just to learn more.
What do you think people missing now to be more open for this kind of open-minded? Because too many people think they are open-minded, but not open-mind philosophy or the mindset. The open mind for lifestyle maybe, but not the mindset. How people need to do to go back to be open-minded like this?
Yeah, so I think part of it is personality-based. I think people are more, they have a predilection towards open-mindedness, and that's great. And some people don't, and that's okay. In my experience, a lot of members of my family are, come from a religious background and a conservative background, and I think part of that is a struggle with security. And because we're in a time of a lot of changes happening, culturally, socially, politically, and I would say in general, my opinion only, that a lot of conservatives like the past. They like the traditional, the way things have been, and they don't want to change
to be controlled or be on the way, always on. There is a track to follow all the time.
Right, and they know they can have that security in knowing this is what I believe and this is what I think the world should be. Now, on the other end of it, if you're open-minded, you might encounter an issue, and you might have 10 different solutions for an issue. Which way do we go? I don't know. What will our world look like if we, address poverty in this way over that way? I mean, who knows? And that could be inherently anxiety provoking and scary. So, when I kind of interact with a conservative, I kind of see those themes come up over and over again. I'm like,
life is not, life is questionable. Like you can make a question of anything in the life, and you think twice before anything, for anything in the life. And life is not black and white only. There is too many stuff before you say it's a black and white only. So I can understand what you're saying. It's really, I would say people need to read more, to read more, to open their mind about the stuff they doesn't know. But sometimes now we take most of our knowledge from social media. Like sometimes we watch some TikTok videos and say, oh, I know about this. Just a limit. From this 20-second video or whatever you're going to watch. You need to read more to know more, I guess. That's what opening your mind. Talk with any one of your grandpa or old people. You will surprise how much knowledge they know about too many things. But people now, maybe they know about the things they are measured in or they are focusing on only, but not too many stuff like before. So maybe we need to back to read more and open our mind to this life. But going to the mental health, you said you want to be you want to back to be a therapist, or you want to study to be a therapist, right?
Correct. So that career aspiration. So my minor is social welfare, which is basically social work. Because I wanted to becoming a social worker might be a potential path towards therapy. And as I went with that kind of minor, I kind of found that my empathy is pulling me towards, inpatient facilities and people with severe mental illnesses like schizophrenia and manic depressive disorder, because they're such an underserved part of the community. It's
a very hard field to be. But you like to be in this field and working. This is to be your career, like a passion.
Yes,
is this you
absolutely a passion. Yeah.
Oh wow.
And I let that empathy just kind of guide me towards which direction I want to go into, because I have a friend, he's a mental health counselor, and he works for a agency, and they get requests for therapists to a home visit or some outpatient facility, inpatient facility, what have you. And he said that none of his coworkers like going to the schizophrenia group therapy because they don't perceive that there's any therapeutic outcome, which is not true. And that just made me think, like, okay, if the actual therapists we have out there don't want to work, with this group of people, I mean, who's going to, and that's where the empathy starts to kind of grow
need
from
help
there.
anyway, so need some people to work with them.
Yeah.
And why you pick this field, or why you choose to be, you want to be therapist?
Yes. So that, like I mentioned, I had a degree in psychology, and it was just kind of a free flowing. I just majored in what I was interested in. So I went into the work world. I did my 9 to 5. I was kind of over it, and then I became a patient. In counseling, in therapy practice, and kind of the road that led me to that is I was experiencing issues at my job where I would just be anxious going into my work. I worked in a high rise, so every time I got in the elevator, I just felt my chest just like tight.
Why?
I was like, something's wrong. I don't know what's wrong, but something's wrong. And I saw a psychiatrist, and they're all about scripts and medication and all that stuff. And I had my consultation with him, and he's like, I can prescribe you something. I don't think you really need it. I think you should see a psychologist instead.
Okay.
And he gave me a referral, and I saw this psychologist. I've had 3 therapists over the years. They're all great in different ways. But once I was in that environment, in that client therapist relationship, I really was able to trust another person at a very, very deep level that I didn't think was even possible. Because I'm a very not introverted, but I enter interocept very deeply.
Okay.
I'm very much in my head and in my body, and that's how I make myself feel safe, basically.
Okay.
And I thought, whatever goes on in here, that's it. Just
starts
and ends in here, and then that's it.
Mm.
And then once I went into therapy, I was like, oh wait, another person can really understand me almost as well as I can.
Mm.
And I didn't think that was possible either. And that really opened my eyes. I'm like, what if I made this my career? I can be that neutral, non-judgmental presence for another person who also may not know that it's possible to be heard in that deep level.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
So, was easy to open up to this person, or you really need long time to open up with him, like talking about every deep things you talk about?
I found it depends on the subject matter. So I feel like I need a motivation or a meaning to share something. So like I went in because I was having issues at work, and I was so stressed out by that job. I was experiencing anxiety just getting in the elevator. So that was easy for me because it was like, here's an issue, and this is what prompted me to go into therapy.
And what was the problem? Did he tell you?
See, that's the thing about therapy is you never really get a clear answer? Which is fine because you kind of learn more about how to deal with your issues. You kind of develop a base set of kind of coping strategies, more or less. And sometimes the issues kind of dissipate over time, and sometimes they don't. In this case, it ended up dissipating because I changed positions within the company. So I changed my job, I changed my circumstances, and my work life was like way better.
Change it.
Yeah. Now that being said, I've had stressful jobs since, and I have had similar reactions, but they haven't been that severe. More because I've been able to do that deep exploration with another person. And it's allowed me to have more acceptance for, what happens in my body and my reactions to things. So, that was kind of in hindsight, that was what we were building towards, is more acceptance of, you feel anxiety, but you don't want to, it's a part of you as much as any other emotion. It's just an emotion. It's not good or bad. It's just there. And it's not something that should be, thrown to the side or gotten rid of or totally taken away.
I feel too many people ignoring this kind of feelings, and they doesn't think about it. It's a mental health problem, and you need really to find someone to help you. Which is, I'm always trying to tell people about it here. Mental health is very important, and you need to think about it. If you feel there is something wrong, it doesn't mean it's gonna be better tomorrow. Think about it, see if you need help, get some help. Maybe you need to talk with someone about it. Sometimes we need to talk only.
Right.
Sometimes you don't need a medicine or you don't need anything, just to open up for someone, listen to you, maybe give you advice, maybe not. Sometimes you don't need an advice.
Right.
So that's a good, you mentioned this point, because I really like to tell people about it. Think about your mental health. Sometimes ask, because some people doesn't know if they are sick or not, or like they have a mental health problem or not. So how you really felt, I need help because of the anxiety only, you decided to go, or someone offered, or how,
So it was life circumstance as well. I had a job that had insurance that would, be able to, so I had the resources to do it. And again, in hindsight, I probably should have been in therapy since I was a little kid. But again, when you're a child, you just don't know any better. And it's kind of funny you bring all that up. It's when I went in, I thought I was depressed.
Okay.
It shows you how much I knew about it. I thought I was depressed. But
everything is depression. People think it's a depression.
Right.
Okay.
But it was really anxiety. So I was that disconnected with my emotions. I didn't even know what I was feeling. And it's still true to an extent. I mean, no one can really exactly pinpoint everything. But yeah, it was just, I don't know. It was just kind of like an epiphany at one point. Like when I went in that elevator and it was just like so immediate, I was like, wait a minute, now I have an issue.
Yeah.
And it's mental health is tricky, because if you have, let's say you have a problem with your foot and your foot hurts and you're walking around limping every day, it's kind of unreasonable to like just keep walking on it. You would logically go to a doctor.
Yeah, check it.
Right. But mental health, it's you're just kind of stuck up here. Your sense of identity, your ego, the voice in your head, it's just kind of, there's some people think in pictures, but same thing. It's all up in here. So in some respects, you don't know what's up or down because it's such a deeply subjective experience. That's another benefit of therapy, is you get an objective observer in there that can say, wait a minute, how can you think A and also B at the same time? So I mean, that's a trap a lot of people fall into. I get in a habit of rumination a lot of times.
It's, as you said, it's really tricky. Some people doesn't know what's the problem, what I have, why I'm feeling this way, and because of how hard the life is, sometimes we ignore it. Like even me, sometimes I feel tired or exhausted from something, I don't even know why. And I always say, like, sometimes I need help, because this may be something, I don't know, I never checked yet, but I'm always saying, like, sometimes I need help about this. You feel like something heavy on your chest.
Yes.
So you don't know what is this, but this is maybe something need help. So it's tricky because you don't know you are sick. You don't know you need help, but
it's not as clear cut as a broken leg or something like that. Even our diagnostic or psychiatric diagnostic manual is like extremely problematic.
Yes, especially in nowadays, too many depressed, as you were saying before. The life is hard as much as we are living now, and you are seeing social media is making it worse. You are looking for the people around you, and maybe some people are lonely or alone, or being single forever, or something happening for them that makes them depressed for any reason. So mental health is really important.
It is.
I like that, and I like the way you are going. I'm trying to make the show as I hear you, so I'm sitting and listening to the people.
Yeah.
So when you
sorry if I'm going on and on. I can
know,
talk about this like all day.
Believe me, keep talking, because I really enjoy it. I really love listening to people, and sometimes, as I said, I love the idea of some people need just to talk. So I'm here to hear them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you said you've been patient after your anxiety. You went to the doctor again, or like the therapist again? You keep going?
Yes. So I had a therapist in Jacksonville, and then I moved to Nashville, and I think I went about 6 months just moving there, getting settled in there, and just a kind of a confluence of like life events happened where I was like, you know what, I think it's time to pick it back up with another therapist. And that therapist in Nashville, I still think is the best one I've had. No shade to the other ones, but I really connected with this.
Why?
I think it's because I got really deep with her, and I was able to do that because there were a lot of things in my past that I was kind of uncomfortable actually saying. So going into it from the start, I actually wrote out a lot of things. Like I basically did an essay in handwriting. I wrote out basically an essay of like kind of like a chronology of some of the things I saw as problematic or some of the things I wanted to address. So I kind of subverted the whole, like, I'm really uncomfortable talking about this with this person, so I'll just write it out. Right.
You wrote it, yeah.
Yeah, I just wrote it. I gave it to her, and before our first session, she already read it, and she was already up to speed on a lot of that.
That's a good idea for people sometimes doesn't speak up.
Yeah.
Like, they can't say loudly all the problems they feel. So
right.
She asked you to write, or it was your idea?
It's kind of a the issues I was struggling with is it was coming up for whatever reason. Just that time in my life, it was coming up already, and I was writing it down anyway. And then I was like, wait a minute, okay, I can see some patterns here that I want to address with with another person. And then at that point, that prompted me to therapy. So I already had it written out.
Okay.
And she didn't ask me for it, but I mean, she gladly read it and all that stuff. Yeah,
it helped a lot.
So even on the first and second session, we're already at a deeper level. You know, we kind of cut out a lot of the kind of catch up and the, this is where I am and this is where I've been kind of stuff. I mean, we got into that still, but her ramp up time to kind of get to know me was like really short, and because that's all she needed. You
jumped a few steps quickly because of this stuff you wrote, you wrote to her. That's
really she had a good base already. And I don't know, she just had it's therapy is about the personal connection you have, and for whatever reason you can just not vibe with it's vibes. Some people you just vibe with, some people you just don't. And for whatever reason, myself and this therapist, we just vibed, and she was able to subtly and kindly put things to me that would allow me to see things in a different way. I mean, the most dramatic shift was, I went into this therapy session and I thought, you know what, the best years of my life were my childhood, and then I became an adult, and it just became an existential crisis after that. And with like one question, she totally flipped that on its head. Because I was telling her about a situation where I was like 5 years old, and I have this memory of in an apartment with my mother, and she's like hysterically crying on the phone. I don't know what it was all about, but she was hysterically crying. And I was telling her, I was like kind of anxious. It was kind of weird. I didn't know what went on with that. And all she asked was like, do you think that's dysfunctional? And I was like, what? Like, I never considered it. I was like, wait a minute. And then from there, like the whole narrative started to unravel. And I totally saw that whole era of my life insanely different. So it went from, I had a good start and now I'm screwing it up to, I weathered a lot of chaos and now I'm making the best of it.
Okay.
In that one question.
You start thinking, like she made you question everything.
Yes. Yeah, and it was like a whole month. It was like it was a miserable month, but I kind of needed to go through it. It was a grief process. Like that idyllic childhood that I tried to convince myself of wasn't as idyllic as I thought, and I needed to come to terms with the reality, the new reality that I kind of...
the childhood.
Yeah.
How was the childhood?
How was my childhood?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you describe it?
You want to get into the chaos?
Okay. If you want to share, of course.
Yeah, no, I'm all good. So yeah, it was chaos. There was a considerable age gap between my parents, and the only reason I bring that up is, as I shared with you before we started recording, my mother was 17 when she had me. She was extremely young. My dad was an adult. So there, right off the bat, my mother was, basically, I'm interrupting her maturation and her growth into becoming an adult because she's having me at such a young age. I was born with my liver outside my body, natural birth, but I was born and then like all my organs came out. Kind of a radical situation.
Okay.
So that necessitated a liver and small intestine transplant at 6 months. So my claim to fame is I'm the longest living multivisceral survivor, 31 years. Yeah. So all that's going on. And then the personal struggles of my dad and my mom. They never married. They never got together. They don't particularly like each other. And they had their own personal struggles, which is their story to tell. So I had all of that going on. So I'm ping-ponging between both of them. I got all these health struggles. I mean, I wasn't like, quote unquote, in a stable health situation until I was an adult. Once my body stopped growing, it's like everything's been pretty good. But as my body developed and grew, it's constantly trying to reject the organs. I go through, acute rejection. It affects the kidneys, so on and so on and so on. So, it was, and then my mom wasn't extremely wealthy, so I was kind of going through a little bit of poverty with her when I was with her, so it was a lot going on. But it was, in the moment, I didn't know any better, because I was just a kid. I didn't know life could be any different. So that's why I had that mistaken idea that, my childhood was great, it was fine, Do
you think you draw this idea, like you make it better in your mind when you grow up? Just you want to imagine it when you go back to this memory as a good memory?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of more detached from it now, so it's it was more natural for me to kind of flow into that. This is all good stuff. And I'm not saying it was all bad or anything like that. It's just all I'm doing right now as an adult is recognizing it's not a normal experience that I had. And there was a lot of, like I say, chaos is the best word I know for it. There's a lot of chaos that was going on there. I'm just recognizing that and in a non-judgmental way. I'm not trying to say it's good, bad, or whatever. It's just dysfunctional. And dysfunctional can incorporate so much. And it could also be a non-judgmental term for it.
That's a good description about it.
Yeah.
I asked for a description. This is a description.
Yeah.
So when you grow up, what make it different and you start feeling you have a mental health problems? What happened when you grow up and be adult?
Yeah. That's a good question. So I think if one is self-aware enough, I think they become more and more aware of the childhood paradigms. The paradigm is just a mental kind of construction or pattern that someone uses to survive a situation. So when I was telling you how I interocept, I go into myself very deeply. That's a survival mechanism. There's so much externally going on that I can't control. I can't control what's going on inside. So I think as I became an adult, I went to college, I started working a job. It was the autonomy and the independence that I wanted, and I had that. But I still had these childhood patterns that still persisted into adulthood. And there's a fundamental mismatch that's going on there. And I think a lot of people's issues sometimes is that they have a childhood paradigm that helped them survive when they were 5, 6, 7. But when they're 25 or 26 or 27, it's not going to work out the same. So like we hang out a lot and I see you in big group events. But when I was in my early 20s, I would have basically a panic attack when I went into like a club. I just I couldn't do it.
Like to be around too many people or not really social.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I still get that feeling when I go to the
big
events that we go to and all that stuff and the meetups, but it's something I can manage now. And it's more about that self-awareness of, I let the onus of interaction fall on other people. Because when I was a kid, everyone was like, obviously, like I had all these doctors, I had all these family members talking to me, seeing how I was doing. So some of those social skills I kind of missed out on at a young age because there was no social responsibility on my end.
You built this social by your own.
Yes.
You didn't when you were younger.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Can see that.
So, and it kind of goes into like another example is feeling responsible for people's emotions. So, and I'll be totally upfront. Like if this, I think our podcast is going really well. I think it is. But let's just say hypothetically it isn't. I would feel totally 100% responsible.
Oh, okay. Don't worry, I will not stop after you, so don't worry.
Yeah, okay.
If I want to stop, I'll stop the next one. So
yeah.
We will take it.
Yeah. So I'd feel totally responsible because when I was a child, it's everyone's well-being, everyone's happiness was contingent on what my health was. So as a child, you don't know any better, and you just kind of conflate the two. So it's like my dad is upset because of me, and that context and that qualia is not there to say it's not about me, my identity, it's about my health, and that's what he's upset about. So that's kind of a childhood paradigm right there. I needed that to survive as a child, but now it's like
you don't need it anymore.
Right. If a meetup goes bad, I'll probably feel responsible for it.
Well, at least you are changed a little bit. You change your character, your personality. You are more open. You are more social.
Yes.
Not introvert. I wouldn't say you are introvert. But not extrovert. Or maybe you are in the middle.
Yeah.
I don't know if there is a name for it. But what you really did to be not introvert as before, or became more social? What you really did? Maybe it helped someone to
right.
help.
Absolutely. I don't like this answer when people give it, but it's the truth. Is just general experience. And I kind of learned what social situations I operate best in. So for whatever reason, as relating to my vocation, whether it's being in an office or being in a classroom, I don't seem to have as many issues there. A party, a loud environment, I seem to have more issues there. Now it's kind of comparatively less, but it's, again, bringing that awareness to it.
At the beginning it was.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So it's bringing that awareness, but then also comes with it that acceptance. So if I'm at a meetup and I'm kind of like more reserved than I normally am, it's not like shame inducing. It's like, okay, well, I'm in a very loud environment. There's like 50 people here. I just don't operate as good in these situations given my, history and all that stuff. So taking that observant eye to it and just kind of seeing, okay, I notice that I'm more socially active in this situation versus this situation. What's changed? What's different? And kind of taking that, it could be like a game. If you're like really reserved and you're at a party, it's like, okay, I'm feeling this way. What are some potential causes? And taking that curiosity to it. Curiosity is a very important emotion. It's rewarding in and of itself. So, it could be, is it because I went to a frat party once, I hated it because I didn't feel like I belonged there,
Okay, makes sense.
So if I was at the frat party, I'm like, okay, why am I feeling so anxious right now? Okay, maybe it's this person doing a handstand on a keg right now, and I'm not really comfortable with that. I don't know. So
at least you know what you like and what you don't.
Yeah.
But you open up for what you like,
Right.
And you push yourself to the zone you don't feel secure or social in it, and you became now a social or not introvert anymore. That's good, I guess.
Yeah.
So after this adult or growing up and out of this shell, if I can say it as a shell, what happened after this? Like when you became a growing up, a guy who has to work, he has to go to the office every day, he has to build his life on his own. Do you still had the same problems, or you were totally different guy?
So I would kind of contend that the same quote unquote issues, and that's, we can pick that word apart a little bit if you want later on, but I would say that they're still there. Again, it's my interaction with those issues that's different. I think pandemic had a little bit to do with it because I was on my own in a little apartment, and I was able to deal with it. But then that hunger for social interaction started to develop, and then I moved back down to Florida, and I actually moved in with my dad and my stepmother to kind of save my money to go to school and do all this stuff. And I don't know what it is. I don't think I solved all of my childhood issues, or I definitely gained a better relationship with my dad and my stepmother. I mean, there's still issues there, but it was a lot better, and I got centered with more family because I had other family there. So that became my social environment. And they live in Ormond Beach, which is like it's a little bit north of Daytona. It's more retirement than anything. So again, that hunger started to develop, where it's like, man, I want to be more around my peers right now. My only peers are my cousins, which is great. I love them. But I want to meet more people like Mo here, So that hunger started to develop, and fortunately, I think it's good fortune and circumstance that once I moved back up here, obviously I had school going on, so that's going to be its own thing. But I found you guys as well, and that just kind of fell right into my lap.
It helped when you are in the right around the right people to to build a life or something.
Absolutely.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, and it was with you guys specifically. I mean, it really worked out for me because it was something habitual. I can go there over and over and over again and see the same people. And once it might be a little awkward the first or second time, third, fourth, fifth, I'm way more comfortable with you.
True.
Yeah. So it's having those having awareness. What works for you, what doesn't. I need to be at a certain place with a certain group of people over and over and over again, and the more times I'm with them, the more comfortable I get. You
build this connection, build this trust. So after a while, you're already in your zone, so you are not really feeling awkward or feeling shy or something. That makes sense. I like that. So do you wanna when you became a mental health or therapist or whatever you wanna be, do you have a major or like something you wanna exactly doing it, or just for everything, like helping everyone for everything?
Yeah, that's a good question, because the one question you have to ask yourself is, who do you want to help? And my initial answer to that was, oh well, everyone. Ideally, in my ideal world, I'd have a private practice. And I would market myself on like Psychology Today, or get connected with the health insurer that would have me as a referral source. So I would take whoever came along to me, because in my view, we're all human, and we all have a human experience, and we all have the common language of emotion. Now, the way you feel, joy, and the way I feel joy might be slightly different. But it's similar enough to the point where if you say, I went through this rough circumstance, I can probably know pretty closely what you're feeling and have a good idea of it. So, I want to connect with people. And I know that's like such a vague answer, but
actually,
it's the truth.
It's a good answer.
Yeah.
Because sometimes not every answer is a cliche answer or a cheesy answer. No, it's a real answer. I want to connect with people. It's something. I made this show to hear the people. So that's not a cheesy answer for me, at least. I don't care what the people think, if it's a cheesy answer or no, but this is what I really want to do. I hear the people. You want to connect with the people. Nothing wrong about it, helping the people is something, a goal for someone. Seeing someone happy. I want to be happy by hearing the people or having a good conversation. These make me happy.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. No, it's not a cheesy answer, or like people will think, oh, it's come on, you really want to say hear the people or help the people? Yeah. So that makes sense. I like that.
Absolutely. The highest good, in my opinion, the highest form of experience. Emerson, Ralph Waldo Emerson, he talks about this. In conversation, you can hit a point where, and he calls it soul. I don't really like that word, but he uses the term soul, where two souls converge. And in my experience, it's only happened to me a couple of times, but when your sense of self, your the voice in your head, just you're so not focused on it, it seems like it disappears. And that's, to me, the highest of the highs that a human being can experience.
But do you think you want the voice in your head disappear? Like everyone should
temporarily. Just it comes back.
I feel, not in a mental health way. I don't know if it's right or not, but I feel sometimes when you have a voice in your mind, sometimes it helps.
Oh yeah.
Like you need to talk with yourself. You be your judge sometimes, not too much judging yourself or being too much hard on yourself, but sometimes you need this voice to remind you who you are or help you. Sometimes you don't need, not everyone telling you the truth.
Absolutely.
We are living in a world that sometimes people are not really having time to tell you everything about yourself or telling you the right or wrong, so you have to do it by your own. So sometimes the voice in your head will help you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But what I'm hitting at here is an ecstatic state. It's a particular state, and it doesn't really last long. I mean, I did it one time. It lasted for like 5 hours. That was pretty crazy. But it comes back. It's just you're so in tune with another person that it's like your consciousnesses just merge into one thing. And I felt that in therapy before. It's kind of like that again, like I said, it's the highest high that I can imagine.
That's not easy. It's not easy to have this connection.
Yeah. So I think as a therapist, I can kind of get closer to that, and if I can do that and also help another person on their mental health journey, all the better.
I like this idea. I feel it's very hard to make this connection or find this connection sometimes, but if you find it, it's a great connection to have.
Yeah, like I said, it's only happened like 3 or 4 times in my entire life.
Oh wow. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah,
because it's not that easy,
No, it is not. Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah.
So, what else? Do you think you are better now, like mentally health, after being? You said you've been with a therapist for how long?
Let's see. Collectively, over the 3, I don't know. It's been like 3, 4, 5 years collectively.
Oh, so you need it in the long term. Like you don't do a quick visit, like 2 or 3 or a month, and that's it.
No, this is a long-term process, and the reason why I left the first one is because I moved, and the reason I had to leave the second one is because I moved. Okay. In the third one, it was just like it was an insurance situation. But if I had it my way, when I moved back down to Florida, I would have kept that therapist in
Oh,
Nashville.
really? Okay.
But there's a state line thing. It gets a little hazy. But yeah, I was only her patient for like a year. And I felt like there was more there to kind of figure out.
Find out more.
Yeah.
It helps you to find yourself also. It's not just about some issue you want to fix and that's it. But I never know. It should be like a very long...
years.
Long term.
It could be years.
Oh, wow.
You know,
okay.
or maybe you're going through something pretty acute and it's, you're going through a tough circumstance in your life and you just need someone there for a couple months and then you're good to go. The situation passes.
When you feel you are done or you can stop now, when someone feel that?
Okay, this is, I'll just give you the straight up real answer in my experience, is when I go to therapy and I can kind of more or less predict what the therapist is going to say. Because every therapist has their biases and their predilections towards, EMDR or CBT or I like ACT a lot, acceptance and commitment therapy. Everyone has their predilections and, you'll start to notice patterns over time. And I mean, if all the things being equal, like obviously like some of the therapists I've had, I've noticed their patterns, but like if something really, really bad happened that I needed that emotional support for, a little bit different of a situation. So let's just say your life is just kind of like going steady. And it's just like the same solutions are coming up over and over again, or the same responses are coming up over and over again. You're noticing those patterns. Then there's something else in your awareness, and that's more ego. That's more thoughts coming in there. And to me, that's distracting. So once I kind of see that, I'm like, okay, maybe it's time to either lessen my visits, maybe from twice a month to once a month, or just stop completely.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you feel happier now, or happy?
Oh yeah.
You are happy now in your life.
Yeah. So I wouldn't. Happiness isn't something I really think a lot about because I think happiness is kind of I get that a lot of people go for that. I'm searching more for contentment, and it seems like I'm kind of splitting hairs here, but I think there's a different emotional experience in that.
What's the difference between both?
I think happiness is a temporary, again, a static state that one can, you're happy when you close on a new home or buy a new car, or in my case, buy a new motorcycle. But contentment is that long-lasting, I kind of equate it to security. Going back to security and the conservatives. So, get back to the conservatives, they might be closed-minded, but I think they're probably happier because they have that foundational kind of like...
It's a long-term happy life.
Yeah.
And instead of just happiness in a moment.
Yes.
So I can see the difference between both of them, but it's not easy to reach the second one.
Absolutely.
Than happy moments.
Yeah, I mean, monks in Tibet work their whole lives to get to that point. Sometimes they don't even do it. So
makes sense.
Yeah. So
I
would say, but to answer your question, I'd say I'm a lot closer to that than I have been.
Are you close to that?
I don't know how close, but I feel closer.
Close. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
You're still young, so
yeah.
you have time to reach it.
Hey, I'm over 30, man. I don't know about that.
Over 30 still have a few times.
So. Yeah.
So don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I really like to ask this question because we need to think sometimes about our happiness, Yes. If you feel happy or not, if you really need to find your happiness, even in the small things.
Yeah.
The small details sometimes make us happier,
Yeah.
So do it, even if it's watching a movie or having a good meal or meeting a friend or whatever you want to do for just having at least a happy moment until you find the one you are looking for, actually. So let's play a game.
Okay.
We do it in every game. This one is, it's not imaginary game, but like imaginary question. So I want you to imagine, by the way, before we say that, are you a guy who follow his heart or his mind?
I'm going to be effusive again, both.
Both? So let's say you're going to take a decision now.
Yeah.
How many % you will follow your heart and how many % you will follow your mind?
It's a team effort, but my mind, I guess.
Mind will take it?
Yeah.
Okay, good to know that. Let's say your mind in front of you now. Think about and tell me what you think your mind gonna tell you.
You think my mind is what?
Your mind in front of you now, and what you think your mind gonna tell you. Like what's the mind gonna tell you after all of these years with you?
All these years with me. There's so much more on the table.
Okay.
So much left to
Okay.
accomplish.
And imagine the same, your heart in front of you, and what do you think the heart gonna tell you?
I'll rest when I'm dead.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why dark? Okay, I like it, but I never thought you would say something like this,
Yeah.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I have you here, man. It was really interesting conversation. I believe the people really enjoy it. I hope so.
I hope so
And
too.
it's something I want people to think about it.
Yeah.
And think about all the question we had about the happiness, about the mental health, about if you really need help or not, if you want to talk with someone.
Yeah.
I offered it before and I'm doing it again. If anyone want to talk or need someone to be here, to like hear them, reach me out. You can be here. I'm really opening my ears for you. So I'm here to hear anyone need help. And I believe if you really need help, go for someone can really help better than me. And I hope you enjoy it. And please, if you really like the show, like, share, subscribe, and comment. And welcome, my friend James.
Thank you.
Good to have you here, man.
Good to be here. Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
I really appreciate it. And see you next time. Salam.